Dr. Royer here. Glad to welcome you to the core phase of the program. So this is usually the first phase of what we're doing before we get to neuro. Takes about 4 to 6 weeks to do this. If you stay on a good pace of 5 sessions a week, they're 8 minutes long. You can do multiple sessions, but the gates are based on numbers, so you need to get the sessions in order to move to the next section. So this, in the core phase, we're working on your biomechanics. So that's how you're moving your stomach out and in. So I have my belt on. So you remember when you had your Colibri that you want to plug it into here, okay? And then we're going to turn it on, okay? And then we're going to put the belt right about where our belly button is. So some people will get it too high. We don't want that. We also don't want it too low. We want it right against the kind of widest part of your belly so we can feel the belly going in and out. Use the clasp to tighten it if you need to, okay? So once it's on, I put in my username, which is my email, and then Inner Armor 100%, and then I hit login, okay? You're gonna sometimes go right into core, or you might get a menu. If you get a menu like this, you're choosing Inner Armor Core, which is the red one. And then when we go into there, you're going to see all the different gates, exercises. For the base training that we do, we need to get you through biomechanics and consistency. Sometimes we'll have you do a little conditioning, depend on case by case, okay? If you move into conditioning, we have a whole separate video on how you do conditioning. Biomechanics and consistency are very similar. Consistency is a little bit harder in that it's measuring the exact distance the belly's going and the belly's going back in, okay? So a few things about biomechanics. Here's my model of the lungs. And what you need to know is that I can exchange air by pushing against the lungs, chest and shoulders, but it doesn't fully inflate the lungs like we want to. The way this is meant to work is this part right here is your diaphragm. It's one of your largest muscles, has a ton of mitochondria in it. And if I can get that to go down, that negative pressure causes those lungs to open up fully. And then the other thing is to get all the toxins out. When it comes back up again, you see how those shrink. So I can do it by compression, but it isn't as efficient as getting the diaphragm down and pushing that up. That is a biomechanic that starts with the belly because the belly is connected in there. And so when I push the belly out, then the diaphragm drops and those lungs fill up. And then when I pull the belly back in, then all the waste product comes out of the lungs, okay? So that's what we're working on, is the belly lets that diaphragm drop and come back up, okay? We need the rate of your breath to be 3 to 7 breaths a minute. So there'll be a little pacer on there that will show you how to do that. Over time, I'd like you to get away from the pacer and try to just use the screen that shows your belly moving in and out, okay? Once we get through biomechanics, then we go to consistency, which is now measuring the exact distance or the standard deviation of your breath. And we need that to be very, very consistent, okay? So things to remember when you're doing it is first work on your movement, your muscle movement, out and in. Then layer your breathing on top. As I'm going out, I'm breathing in and then exhaling, pulling it back into the stomach. So as I inhale, stomach out, and as I exhale, stomach in. I prefer breathing through the nose. It acts as a nice filtration and kind of moisture production on the oxygen. So when it hits the lungs, it's received well. And then I like to breathe out through the mouth. You can vary that if you want to. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit start. And we're going to choose our Colibri. And then it's going to go right in. So this is the shape I'm doing. Up and down. Okay, it gives me one clear breath. And now I'm going to go into the exercise. Okay, you can turn it sideways if in a landscape, if it's easier for you to see, but that's my belly moving, okay? I'm not using the pacer right now. I just kind of know how to breathe, so I'm doing it, but you can use that little pacer to the right over here if you want. And the goal is that I'm getting this thing to look very, very similar. I want these ups and downs to start to look the same. Okay, so as I'm going up, I'm watching where I was before so that I make them similar. If you look at the green bar, that is my breaths per minute. I have to stay between 5 and 7 in order to accrue points, which are on the right. Again, in landscape mode, you can probably see things just a smidge better, but this will still work this way. Now, if I breathe this way for close to 2 minutes and 45 seconds, I will accrue 1,000 breathing points, which will give me my first sitting star, okay? If I start to get too fast, let's try to make it go too fast. If I go too fast, then the green bar is going to start to go white here. See that? So I need to slow it back down again to bring it back into green, okay? Or if I go too slow, because we don't want you going too slow, okay? If I go too slow, it will also go white. So the idea is to keep that first bar as green as possible, and that's when you're going to accrue points, okay? When you get to 1,000, you get your first star. From there, we go from a seated position into a standing. Most people should be able to do that, but if that's hard for you to stand, hold on to a table in front of you. You can lean against a wall if you need to, or if it's too difficult, just let your contact owner know, and they'll make a note accordingly that even though it said standing, you are also practicing a sitting, okay? Once you get through those gates, you will then head to get the 10 sitting and the 10 standing. You will then head to consistency, okay? Also in the app, we have all kinds of information, summarizes your sessions. You always want to go to the bottom to move on. So here I'm going to do that to go home, okay? We are super excited about the way this program works, and our research has shown it makes significant improvement on heart functioning in just about 4 weeks. We just did a study where we saw close to 60% improvement on the heart, and there's a lot of other variables that are impacted, but this sets the base for us to work on the brain so that ultimately we can help you be the best version of you.